June 6, 1944, 06:30 hours. The English Channel churns beneath a gray sky, whitecaps breaking against steel hulls, carrying 156,000 souls toward a beach they may never leave. Among them are boys, not men hardened by years of service, but teenagers whose faces still bear the softness of childhood, whose hands trembled as they wrote final letters home just hours before, whose mothers still kept their rooms exactly as they'd left them. Private Harold Baumgarten is 19 years old. He grew up in the Bronx, playing stickball in the streets, dreaming of becoming a doctor. His medical school acceptance letter arrived the same week as his draft notice. He chose to go, chose to serve, chose to postpone a future that may never come. Now he stands in Landing Craft 1005, Company B, 116th Infantry Regiment, 29th Division, watching Omaha Beach grow closer through the morning mist. Around him, 31 other soldiers. Most are teenagers. Some have never kissed a girl. Others left pregnant wives behind, praying to meet children they helped create but may never hold. The boat rocks violently. Someone vomits. No one laughs. The sound of diesel engines and distant artillery swallows every other noise, every prayer, every whispered goodbye to mothers who will receive telegrams in the weeks to come. Baumgarten clutches his rifle with hands that won't stop shaking. He is a medic, trained to save lives, now forced to take them. The red cross on his helmet makes him a target, not a sanctuary. German snipers have learned that killing medics breaks units faster than killing soldiers. 600 yards from shore, the ramp drops. Hell opens its mouth. Machine gun fire tears through the landing craft before the first man reaches the water. Bodies fall into the surf, blood mixing with salt water, turning the foam pink in the pale dawn light. Baumgarten jumps. The water is deeper than expected, colder than anything he's known. His equipment drags him under. 60 pounds of gear becomes an anchor. He fights to the surface, gasping, choking on brine and cordite, watching men around him sink beneath waves that will become their graves. He reaches the beach. It is not sand beneath his boots, but bodies. The first wave landed 20 minutes before. They are dead now, nearly all of them. Sprawled across obstacles and wire, caught in crossfire from bunkers the naval bombardment failed to destroy. The beach is a killing ground. 600 yards of open sand swept by interlocking fields of machine gun fire. There is nowhere to hide. Baumgarten runs. A bullet tears through his face, entering his left cheek, exiting through his right. He feels his teeth shatter, tastes blood and bone fragments. He does not stop running. Another bullet strikes his left foot. He falls behind a steel beach obstacle, pressing himself into sand that offers no protection, only the illusion of safety. Around him, boys are dying. Not the heroic deaths of movies, but ugly, screaming deaths. Men calling for mothers, men holding intestines that spill from torn bellies, men whose faces are gone. Private Robert Sales is 17 years old. He lied about his age to enlist, added 2 years to his birth certificate, convinced a recruiting officer who didn't look too closely. He wanted adventure, wanted to prove himself a man. Now he lies in the surf with both legs shattered, waves washing over him with each tide, drowning him by inches. He calls for his mother. She is 3,000 miles away, standing in a kitchen in Iowa, unaware her son is dying on a beach whose name she cannot pronounce. She will learn in 2 weeks when an officer in dress uniform knocks on her door, carrying words no mother should ever hear. Baumgarten hears Sales crying. The medic in him overrides the soldier. He crawls through machine gun fire, dragging his wounded foot, leaving a trail of blood across sand already soaked with it. He reaches Sales, sees legs bent at impossible angles, sees bone white against red. There is nothing he can do. No morphine can ease this pain. No tourniquet can stop this bleeding. Sales is 18 years old and dying, and Baumgarten can only hold his hand and lie to him, tell him he'll be fine, that help is coming, that he'll see Iowa again. Sales dies holding a stranger's hand, believing a lie that mercy demands. Baumgarten crawls back to the obstacle. His face is numb now, shock setting in, adrenaline masking pain that will come later, if there is a later. He looks up the beach toward the bluffs, where German positions pour fire into the killing zone below. The plan has failed. Everything that could go wrong has gone wrong. Naval bombardment missed bunkers. Aerial bombing dropped payloads miles inland. The first wave is dead. The second wave is dying. Tanks that should have provided cover sank in the channel. Artillery that should have suppressed defenses never arrived. It is 0700 hours. The invasion is failing. On the USS Augusta, officers consider calling it off, pulling back the remaining waves, abandoning thousands of dead and dying on a beach that may cost them the war. 1 more hour of this slaughter, and Omaha Beach will be written into history as America's greatest military disaster. But something shifts. Not in the grand strategy rooms where generals move pins across maps. Not in the naval guns offshore or the fighter planes above. It shifts on the beach itself, in the hearts of boys who should not be here, who should be in high school gymnasiums slow dancing with girls in summer dresses, who should be playing baseball and dreaming of futures that war has stolen. Private Carlton Barrett is 18 years old. He has been pinned behind a beach obstacle for 30 minutes, watching his friends die, listening to officers scream orders that no one can hear over the sound of machine guns and mortars and men screaming. He sees his lieutenant, already wounded, stand up and point toward the bluffs. The lieutenant is cut down instantly. Barrett stands up anyway. He runs toward the bluffs, toward the bunkers that are killing his friends, toward fortifications that should be impregnable. He is alone, one boy with a rifle against concrete and steel and machine guns. Others see him. Private Leo Nash stands up, then Private Robert Garcia, then Private Henry Witt, then dozens more, all teenagers, all terrified, all running toward death because staying means certain death and running means a chance. They cross the beach in small groups, sprinting between explosions, diving behind obstacles, crawling through wire. German machine guns track them, cutting down some, missing others through nothing but chance. Barrett reaches the seawall. It is a low concrete barrier at the base of the bluffs, offering the first real cover since the ramp dropped an eternity ago. He collapses against it, gasping, checking himself for wounds, surprised to find none. Around him, other survivors gather. Maybe 50 men from companies that landed with 200. They are boys with 1,000-yard stares, boys who have aged decades in minutes,
Boys whose hands shake as they reload weapons with fingers made clumsy by fear and cold.
Baumgarten joins them. His face is a ruin, blood-soaked, teeth gone, jaw barely functional. He should be evacuated. Instead, he treats others, applying bandages with hands that won't stop trembling, offering morphine from supplies running dangerously low. A sergeant, one of the few NCOs still alive, points up the bluff. There are trenches up there, paths between minefields, places where determined men might climb. It means leaving cover. It means exposing themselves to fire from above. It means probable death. They go anyway, because staying on the beach means certain death, and dying while moving forward feels better than dying while cowering. Because their friends are dead, and someone must make that death mean something. Because they are 18 and 19 and 20 years old and stupid enough to believe they might survive. The climb is vertical in places. They pull themselves up using beach grass and exposed roots, slipping on soil loosened by bombardment, falling and climbing again. German soldiers throw grenades down. American boys throw them back or dive aside, then continue climbing. Barrett reaches the top first. He sees German trenches 20 yards away, sees soldiers running toward him with rifles raised. He fires from the hip, not aiming, just firing, then throws himself into the nearest crater as return fire cracks overhead. Others reach the top. They spread out, moving between craters, using every depression and shell hole as cover. They are not following orders. There are no orders. Their officers are dead or dying on the beach below. They are following instinct and training and a desperate need to survive. Bangalore torpedoes blast holes through wire. Boys pour through, firing as they run, screaming, not battle cries, but raw terror given voice. They reach German positions and the fighting becomes intimate, brutal, the kind of combat where you smell your enemy's breath and see his eyes go wide when steel enters flesh. Private Felix Branham is 19 years old. He fires his rifle until it's empty, then uses it as a club, then drops it and fights with hands and helmet and anything within reach. He kills a German soldier with a trench shovel, feels the impact shudder through his arms, sees blood spray across his uniform. He vomits afterward, hands shaking so badly he cannot reload his rifle. But he keeps moving forward. By 0900 hours, small groups of Americans hold positions atop the bluffs. They are isolated, cut off from reinforcement, running low on ammunition. German counterattacks push them back. They dig in and hold. More boys climb the bluffs, more reach the top, more die trying. The beach below continues to receive waves of landing craft. Later waves have it easier, not easy, never easy, but the initial slaughter has subsided. Destroyers move dangerously close to shore, risking running aground to provide direct fire support. Naval guns blast German bunkers at point-blank range. By noon, the beach is secure. Secure in the military sense, meaning men can cross it without dying instantly, meaning the invasion will not be pushed back into the sea. But secure does not mean safe. German artillery still pounds the sand. Snipers still pick off exposed soldiers. Mines still detonate beneath careless boots.
Baumgarten sits against the seawall, treating wounds that never stop coming. His own face is destroyed, his foot barely functional, but he works until his supplies are exhausted, then scavenges supplies from the dead. He saves lives he will never know about, boys who will go home and marry and have children and never fully explain what happened on this beach. he will receive the Silver Star for his actions. Years later, he will become the doctor he dreamed of being, will spend his life saving lives to balance the scales against the lives he took, against the lives he couldn't save. He will never speak easily about this day. The words will catch in his throat. The memories will wake him at night. But he will speak, because the dead cannot. Private Harold Baumgarten will live to be 89 years old, will die in 2016, will carry Omaha Beach with him every day of those 72 years. He will testify at war crimes trials. He will speak to students. He will return to Normandy, to the beach that nearly killed him, and he will weep. Private Robert Sales will never leave. His body will be buried in the American cemetery at Colleville-sur-Mer, along with 9,387 others. His mother will visit once, in 1948, will stand before a white cross bearing her son's name, will try to understand how a boy who built model airplanes and collected baseball cards ended up beneath foreign soil. She will never understand. No mother can. Company B, 116th Infantry Regiment, landed with 215 men. By day's end, 98 were casualties, nearly half dead, the rest wounded. The company had trained together for 2 years, had become brothers, had promised to watch out for each other. Those promises were kept. Boys died saving boys. Medics like Baumgarten crawled through fire to reach the wounded. Sergeants rallied broken units through force of will and example. Officers led not from the rear but from the front, dying first so their men might live. The average age on Omaha Beach was 21 years old. Thousands were younger, teenagers who lied about their age or were simply young enough that no one questioned the lies. They had acne and baby faces and voices that still cracked under stress. They charged into machine gun fire anyway. Not because they were brave, though they were. Not because they wanted glory. Most just wanted to survive. They did it because their friends were beside them, and their officers were ahead of them, and turning back meant abandoning both. They did it because 19-year-olds still believe in right and wrong, in causes worth dying for, in futures worth fighting toward. They did it because someone had to, and that someone was them. By evening, Allied forces controlled 5 miles of coastline. The beachhead was shallow, barely a mile deep in places, but it was enough. More troops poured ashore, more equipment, more supplies. The invasion that nearly failed on the beach succeeded through the courage of boys who refused to fail. In the days that followed, they pushed inland, through hedgerows and villages, through fields where every tree might hide a sniper, through towns reduced to rubble. They fought for every yard of France, paid for liberation in blood and life. Many of them never made it home. Private Carlton Barrett, who stood up when staying down meant safety, was killed by artillery near Saint-Lô on July 18, 1944. He was 18 years old. He had survived Omaha Beach only to die 6 weeks later in a war that would continue another 10 months. Private Felix Branham, who fought with a shovel when his rifle was empty, made it through the war. He returned to Tennessee, married his high school sweetheart, raised 4 children, and worked as a carpenter. He rarely spoke about the war. When he did, he spoke of friends who didn't come home, boys whose names time has erased, but whose deaths he carried like stones in his pockets.
He died in 1997 at the age of 72. His grandson asked him once what it was like storming Omaha Beach. Branham looked away, was silent for a long moment, then said only, "We were just kids. We didn't know we couldn't do it, so we did." That is perhaps the truest thing anyone has said about D-Day. They were kids who didn't know the impossible was impossible, so they made it possible. They were boys facing fortifications that should have been impregnable, odds that should have been insurmountable, deaths that should have been inevitable. They went anyway. Not all of them survived. Most were wounded, either in body or soul or both. They came home to parades and medals and gratitude that felt insufficient for what they'd endured. They came home and tried to become the men they might have been if war hadn't interrupted their boyhoods. Some succeeded, some didn't. All of them aged faster than their years, carried burdens invisible to those who hadn't been there, woke at night hearing sounds no one else could hear. The beaches of Normandy are quiet now. The bunkers remain, concrete monuments to a day when the world hung in balance. The sand is clean, washed by 70 years of tides that have carried away the blood and the bodies and the physical evidence of slaughter. But the memory remains in the white crosses and stars of David that mark the cemetery above Omaha Beach, in the names carved in stone, boys forever young, forever 19, forever frozen in a moment when courage was measured in steps taken toward death. In the veterans who returned each June 6th, fewer each year, until now only a handful remain, old men in their 90s hobbling across beaches they once crossed at a sprint, weeping for friends who never grew old, who never married or had children or knew peace. Harold Baumgarten returned to Normandy many times. He walked the beach where he was shot, where he held Robert Sayles as he died, where he became something other than the boy who left the Bronx dreaming of saving lives. He spoke to students and historians, his words careful, precise, the voice of a witness who knows that memory is sacred, that the dead deserve truth, not mythology. He said once in an interview late in his life, "We were terrified. Anyone who says they weren't is a liar. But we went anyway." That's not heroism. That's just what you do when your friends are dying and you're the only one who can help. That is the essence of Omaha Beach. Not grand strategy or tactical brilliance. The plan failed on both counts. Not superior equipment. American boys charged German fortifications with rifles against machine guns. Not overwhelming numbers. The first waves were slaughtered almost to a man. What succeeded was the willingness of teenagers to stand up when staying down was safer, to run forward when every instinct screamed to run back, to die if necessary so that others might live. They were farm boys from Iowa, and factory workers from Detroit, and students from New York. They were kids who played baseball and went to dances and wrote letters to sweethearts in careful handwriting. They were utterly ordinary. Until they weren't. Until the moment when ordinary boys did extraordinary things, when fear was acknowledged but not obeyed, when death was faced and somehow impossibly overcome. The invasion succeeded not because of the boys who landed on Omaha Beach. It succeeded in spite of everything that should have destroyed them, through sheer determination and desperate courage and the refusal to let friends die for nothing. If you walk Omaha Beach today, if you stand where Company B landed, if you look up at the bluffs that seemed impossible to climb, you will understand something essential about human nature. You will understand that ordinary people, when asked to do impossible things,
sometimes do them anyway. Not because they are heroes, though they are. Not because they are special, though they became special through what they endured. They do it because someone must, and that someone is them. The boys of Normandy charged into machine gun fire because they believed in something larger than themselves, because they loved their friends more than they feared death, because at 19 years old you still believe the world can be saved if someone is brave enough to save it. They were right. The world was saved, not by one man or one nation or one brilliant strategy, but by thousands of boys who stood up when the moment demanded it, who charged forward when reason suggested retreat, who died young so that millions might live free. Their names are carved in stone above the beach. Their stories live in the testimonies of survivors, in the letters they wrote home, in the photographs their mothers kept on mantels long after hope died. Their legacy lives in every generation that has never known occupation, never felt the boot of tyranny, never had to choose between submission and death. They were just kids. Kids who played stickball and went to proms and worried about acne and first dates. Kids who should have died old, surrounded by grandchildren, full of years and peace. Instead, they died at 19, in the surf and on the sand, calling for mothers who couldn't hear them, holding hands of strangers who became brothers in that final moment. They died so that we might live in a world where such dying was not necessary, where wars might end, where boys might grow old. We owe them more than memory. We owe them the world they died to create, a world of freedom and peace and justice. We owe them our attention when veterans speak, our gratitude when we see flags, our commitment to ensuring their sacrifice meant something. We owe them our refusal to forget. Because the moment we forget, the moment these boys become statistics in history books rather than names that deserve to be spoken, is the moment their deaths become meaningless.
Harold Baumgarten understood this. He spent his life ensuring we would not forget, that Robert Sales and Carlton Barrett and Felix Branham and thousands of others would not fade into historical footnotes. He spoke when speaking hurt, when memories cut like shrapnel, when recounting death required reliving it. He spoke because they couldn't, because the dead have no voice except through those who survive, because silence is the final death, the one that erases not just life, but memory, that reduces boys who laughed and dreamed and loved to unmarked graves and forgotten names. So remember them. Remember that they were boys, not warriors. Remember that they were terrified, not fearless. Remember that they cried for their mothers and held hands with strangers and died in ways that should haunt us. Remember that they did it anyway. Remember that on June 6, 1944, at 06:30 hours, as dawn broke over a beach in Normandy, ordinary boys did impossible things because the world needed them to, because their friends were dying, because someone had to go first. Remember their names. Private Harold Baumgarten, medic, Bronx, New York, survivor. Private Robert Sales, rifleman, Iowa, killed in action, age 17. Private Carlton Barrett, rifleman, Virginia, killed in action, age 18. Private Felix Branham, rifleman, Tennessee, survivor. Remember the 2,501 American casualties on Omaha Beach alone, dead and wounded, most of them teenagers, all of them irreplaceable. Remember the 9,387 buried at Colleville-sur-Mer, white crosses in perfect rows, each one a boy who never came home. Remember that freedom is not free, that peace is purchased with blood, that the world we inherited was bought by boys who gave everything they had and everything they might have been. And if remembering hurts, if it should hurt, then remember anyway, because they gave their todays for our tomorrows, and the least we can do is ensure their names outlive the stone that bears them. If this story moved you, if it made you remember the names time tried to erase, then carry them forward. Speak their names to your children. Visit the beaches where they died. Stand in the cemeteries where they rest, and know that beneath each white cross lies a boy who should have grown old. They were just kids, kids who charged into machine gun fire because someone had to. Kids who saved the world at 19 years old. Kids who deserved to be remembered not as monuments or myths, but as boys who were scared and brave and human and extraordinary. Remember them.